Smiley and the Underclass is a musical project that was started by myself and the drummer Jay Hirano. It's also Derek Daly on bass and James Shepherd on lead guitar. We're a four-piece punky reggae rebellious noise from London via Japan, Montserrat, which is a tiny island in the Caribbean, in case you didn't know, and Essex, I guess. Smiley Manifesto is constantly being updated, but I suppose the main tenements of it would be environmental awareness, good music, and human decency to one another. So we've been together 4 years, and we tried to take things up a step the last 2 years and really work hard. So yeah, we actually put out a self-titled EP in 2014, which was 4 tracks, which is long gone now. And our first album came out a year ago, almost to this day, which is Rebels Out There. We've done 2 European tours, one without a drummer because of his passport problems, which was really interesting, doing a whole tour without a drummer. Another one this year, which was really good, and a Japanese tour, which was mind-boggling. Yeah, it was weird because you spend so much time in England and around the UK plugging away, and the live scene here is not designed to help musicians really, and there's a good million gazillion barriers to doing music in the UK these days. But in Japan, there's a really healthy subculture scene. Like the punk scene is strong, the reggae scene is strong. Any scene you can think of is there and vibrant and active. And it just feels like more of an event. Like we got into Tokyo for the last show and couldn't believe my eyes to see people queuing around the block to see a band that, we try real hard in the UK, but it's always a struggle getting like an audience. You've got to promote it well and everything, but in Japan it seems to just work. The thing where people say that Japanese fans are really quiet and respectful is bullshit. We had like stage invasions, mosh pits, people being chucked around. The one difference is that because the sort of cannabis scene in Japan is incredibly underground. So normally at gigs in the UK and in Europe, people are smoking either inside or outside, but everybody was pretty much sober at our gigs. But they didn't look sober, so it was fine. They were nice and aggressive and beautiful. The whole thing. We don't have any kind of structural support in the sense of like we do everything ourselves. Like we do the booking, we do the poster designs, we do the merch stands, we do the gig. We try and remember to actually play. We rehearse, we write songs. I mean, those two things should always be done by the musician, but the biggest learning curve is just how much work it is. Like I've learned how to be a Photoshop designer, I've learned how to be a booking agent, and all these kind of different strands that perhaps 15 or 20 years ago or even 10 years ago there might be like record labels doing that for you. In some ways I almost resent having to do all of this work because it's hard, but there's a feeling of autonomy over your work, which is great. I've never known the music industry any other way. So the whole thing is a learning curve. It never stops. Yeah. The new stuff definitely. The older stuff, a lot of it was written before the band came together. A lot of it was either written by James, the guitar player, or me. But the new material, I wouldn't say it's more self-aware, but there's an understanding of the music industry in our new songs. We're not just going out cussing record labels or anything like that, but we're more aware of what it means to struggle as a working musician than we were when we started. So I guess that hopefully that sort of answers your question. I don't know, man. I don't know. The world is so different to when the Clash were doing their thing. The world is so different to when the Spice Girls were doing their thing. You know, everything's changed. Like that's why I'm happy to be talking to the Zine, because I see the same autonomy and I see the same hustle throughout everything you guys are doing and the bands that you work with as well. Like before we started the interview, I was begging to hear the Blinders album because I've been watching them do their thing. Like the other night, who did we play with? The Velvet Hands and Bug Eye. All these cats, man. They've got nothing like us, and it's really cool, you know. Like I don't know if they're doing their own Photoshop, but respect if they are. It's 10 years since the financial crash, which I clocked the other day, and now it is really visible everywhere. Like, streets are fucked, streets are filthy, people are homeless, people struggle. But there must be some kind of goodness coming out of it because people are aware. It's a difficult time. Everybody's politically active, and in some ways that's so great. In other ways, it's nice to step back and remember how to have relationships with people without looking through your fucking ideological lens all the time. Like, there's a perception that that like punk bands and bands like ours should always be of a certain viewpoint, like, you know, like left wing and everything, which is cool. Like, I would say I'm definitely more left wing than right wing, but I'm so fucking sick of there being this feeling that your music has to align with that all the time. I don't want to make music for political ideologies anymore. I don't know if I ever did, but like I want to make music that can bring together like Leave and Remain and Trump and Clinton and all of that shit, because there's bigger things happening, you know. There's like climate change, for example, does not care about political union, doesn't care if you're in or out of a structure like the EU, it doesn't care who's president, but it fucking matters who is, I suppose. I believe I've gone off on a massive tangent. Yeah, totally. But there's a difference between having a political backdrop to your music and having a political ideological lens, you know? Like, I don't want to cuss anybody. And I love Billy Bragg. I think he's wicked. He's one of the first artists of my old band years ago when we were kids. We supported him at Ulu. But it's not going to change anything, you know? Just banging on about ism, whether it's Marxism, socialism, capitalism, fascism, banging on about it isn't going to change anyone's minds. It feels like it entrenches us further and builds that wall a little bit higher. And I'm sick of that shit. I want to kick it down and hug the person on the other side. And I don't quite know how to do that yet, but with the music that we're working on now is perhaps trying to do that. Yeah, originally the goal was to talk about environmental crises and political crises and austerity, and now it feels like we've reached a point where everybody is aware of that anyway, and you don't need someone pointing out the problems constantly when we all can see it, you know. Like, help me get the dog shit off my shoe, don't tell me it's on there. I just need to get it off, and we need to come together and love each other again. And I see it, you know, I see it. Like when you go to gigs, like, you know what's sad? You know, Chaz and Dave. Is it Chaz or Dave who just passed away? Chaz just passed away. Like, that kind of music, that's populist music, man. and it doesn't have any kind of point of view. It's just lovely, you know. And we spend many years sniffing at that kind of stuff, but it's fucking beautiful, you know. It doesn't tear anybody apart, and that's good. It's the same old thing, isn't it? Poverty brings us together, and fear tears us apart. Fear of the other, which is the trope that's we've seen throughout history, is here again, and it's, you know, this time it's Muslims, and you know, not 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it wasn't really about Muslims. It was about Polish people, or it was about benefit sheets, or it was about this and about that. You know, go all the way back to the Irish blacks and dogs, man. It's the same shit. And in some ways, people have gotten much wiser, and in some ways, people have gotten a lot dumber. I don't know. I think social media plays a big part in things today. And I'm about the 8 millionth person to talk about this, but I kind of feel like social media has the power to make us see things that aren't necessarily there. It's quite an odd thing, you know, the phenomenon of fake news and all of this jazz. Like, I mean, it's nothing new, to be fair. It's been in British newspapers since time immemorial, you know, political viewpoints and stuff. But yeah, I kind of think we'd be better off as a species if the internet had finished around 1999, just stayed at that level. Maybe I'm being a Luddite, but I don't know. It's like if you take away It's like if you take away every single resource that's available to an artist, like you take away any arts council funding, any kind of grants, venues closing, it just makes you, it kind of makes people more creative, you know? What was the town I was looking at? It wasn't Northampton. It was a town where all their music venues had closed. What was it? And I'm going to look it up after this interview and send you the link. But all the venues closed, and for a couple of months it was just dead space. And a radio DJ was like, fuck this, I'm going to start, like, what do you call it, the Wild Hair Club. And it's like taking over spaces every month. And now the gigs are rammed, like always rammed at different places, and it's got its own scene, which maybe before all those venues closed, that scene was more diluted and the gigs weren't as busy and weren't as happening. I'd prefer it if there were venues, and I'd prefer it if there were resources for artists, but you're never going to stop creation, man. You can't. Well, unbelievably, because, you know, we're still fighting for survival in the UK, but our Japanese audiences are getting a special edition of Rebels Out There, which is coming out on October the 17th, and it's got bonus tracks and liner notes by a guy called Kensho, who's a bit of a legend in Japanese music press, which is really cool. And it's, you know, like the fanboy in me, it's like, I really want a copy of the Japanese album, man, because it's going to have that bit of writing on the side, and it's going to be real cool. So that's happening. We're going into the studio, I think, in December with a guy called Lavar, who's a bit of a genius and has worked with Natty, Akala, and Cap Down, who's like a well-known ska punk band from back in the day. So it's going to be different. Yeah, hopefully there'll be new music by about March time, which is when we're thinking of going to Japan again, or hoping to go to Japan again. So yeah, just gonna plug away, man, and try and not hurt anybody and be nice to people. It's DIY or die, it really is. What was it the other day, or the other month? I was searching on the internet and doing a terrible don't do this, kids. Searching your own band's name, like vanity bullshit. But I found in the search that someone had bootlegged our gig. Well, we supported Dread Zone last year at the 229, wicked gig. But someone had bootlegged it, and I was like, okay, that's quite interesting. I tried to get in touch with the guy, and I couldn't. And then someone who listens to us saw me. I like reached out and said, can someone get this bootleg for us? They sent it to me. I took it and put it on our Bandcamp for like a free album, you know. So Send me stuff, guys. Send me videos, send me things. I'll do whatever I can, you know. Send me drawings. I'll make t-shirts out of them. That is by a guy called Stefano Ronchi. He's an Italian surrealist painter, and I met him at a Smiley and The Underclass gig at the Silver Bullet in Finsbury Park, which ain't there anymore. It was a wicked little venue run by Hayley Squires, who anybody who wants to know about the proper underground London music scene should check out Hayley Squires. So he came up to me at the end of the gig, drenched in sweat, and said, "Like, man, music is the culture, music is the weapon. We must work together and fight these bastards." I was like, "All right, mate, cool." And then he showed me his paintings, and like incredibly detailed. Like, you could take a magnifying glass all day and have loads of fun with it, like about 10 subliminal messages in the thing. And I think he did it. I think he did it for a draw. I don't think I even paid him. But you know, he's a good man. Yeah, it's really exciting to work with people like that. I met an artist in Germany this year who I'm hoping to contact again. You know, it's just meeting people, you know. There's talented humans everywhere. A lot of them don't even know it yet, but it's really cool. They're all out there. And, yeah, man, it's beautiful, right? We're like, maybe this is a thing to do with the internet, being maybe it's a good side of it. It feels like we're all mycelium, you know? The shit underground that connects, it's like a network, and then mushrooms spring out. It doesn't make any sense. But it's all over the planet, this weird little network of mycelium or people just talking to each other. Everybody's got something to offer, you know. Do you know how to grow pineapples? You just cut the top off and plant this bit, and then a new one grows out of that. It's pretty cool. Not this one. This is plastic, but yeah. It was really good, man. It was our first time in the north of England, soft southerners that we are. It was like a independent venue run by kids, you know, who love music, and it was lovely. Yeah. Shout out to Call Me Malcolm as well. Actually, really weirdly, that I don't know how much you or even I buy into the synchronicity thing, but our driver, who sadly passed away last year in a motorcycle accident, is a guy called Malcolm Lawless, which is the best second name ever. And yeah, he's from Warrington, and we played Warrington supporting Call Me Malcolm, and it all got a bit weird, but it was kind of beautiful. Shout out to Malcolm, we love you, man, I miss you. Yeah, that was a very good gig. All right, young Bob Dylan is like this. "Well, I went down to the corner store and the sun was chicken," or something like that. And old Bob Dylan is like this. "I just want to tell you this. I gotta go down for a little while and I go up at the end." You know, I've always got a gig on the cruise ships for the old Bob Dylan fans.
So anyone wants to
Don't worry, guys, it's not happening for another 2 years. Next gigs are, well, I don't know when this is going out, but we got Brighton and Bristol, which is a wicked duo, next weekend. We're going to Manchester, Bradford, London, New Cross in October, Bridgeport, loads of places, man. I don't know. Check out the website, guys. Facebook and Smiley. Oh man. This is fucking cliche, dude, but you know, people like Johnny Cash and the Beatles, the voices you hear the voices I heard when I was a kid, because that was all I could ever do was sing and maybe play a little bit of guitar and piano. I was never very good at maths. So those voices, yeah, that was all I was ever gonna do. You know, like hearing A Day in the Life for the first time and having your mind blown across the room with that brilliant orchestra crescendo bit. Well, I don't know. All of it, Dizzy, all of it, man. Like the reggae thing blew my mind apart. It's happening to me now. Like I've just started getting into like New Orleans stuff, like Professor Longhair and these kind of like piano-driven guys. Yeah, it's like discovering a fucking Aladdin's cave every couple of months. The world is a big place, and there's been many, many years of creation and many things to draw from and enjoy. Yeah, I suppose so. I suppose in the first instance, yes, because you find the music on YouTube, or you might find the first introduction to that genre through the internet. But me, I like record shops, so I'd like hear a taste of something and be like, oh, okay, that's the sound I like. I'm gonna go find that sound and identify it as a 1960s soul or something. I'm gonna check out 1960s soul with the shitty record shop in Eastbourne, which is really good. Any diggers out there, you should check out the little record, not just a little record shop in Eastbourne. It's very good. Out on the Floor Records in Camden Town is like, it's kind of shaped my appreciation for music over the years, where I bought my first ever record. Shout out to Jake. Shout out to Tony from Massive International in Camden as well. Rat Records in Camberwell. Is it Camberwell? Something like that, Rat Records. Flashback, all of them, man. Yeah, but especially Out on the Floor Records and that Eastbourne one. Seaside towns have got many hidden secrets, and they decay in a beautiful way. It's well worth checking out. And I'm a racist now, la la la. Love you, Morrissey, but stop being such a prick, man.
Do you love Morrissey?
I did, yeah.
Has he broken your heart?
Bah, man, he's always had shades of horribleness about him, I suppose. Before my time, when he had the well, there's an interesting thing, the St George's flag.
Yeah, you're St George, isn't it? Oh,
I am St George, yeah. My first name is George, people. Yeah, it's Caffy ruining the illusion of spontaneity in the interview. Yeah, I love Morrissey's lyrics from the 80s, and it's that thing about separating the art. Well, I still listen to Ask Me every couple of days. You know, ask me. But I can't see myself going to see him anymore. I don't know. Yeah, people are allowed to say whatever the hell they want, but I mean, what does he really know these days? Where does he live? In LA? No? I don't know, man. What the fuck are you talking about Anne-Marie Walters and UKIP for? You're a fucking... I don't know. It pisses me off because he meant a lot to me. His lyrics meant a lot to me, you know, and they still do. And who's the other one? We were talking about him earlier, Johnny Rotten, John Lydon. Hey, you know, your heroes become your villains, right? Hey?
Oh, you Butter Mountains.
Like the crop of artists that are out now, like Slaves, Idols, Nova Twins, Blinders. Which is interesting because it's totally not what we sound like, you know. Like, you know, not that any of them really sound particularly similar. Everybody's doing their own thing, which is so wicked. Like, no one's trying to be like anybody else. But just these bands that are telling the truth the way they see it, and you can see in their eyes that they're telling the truth, you know. And hopefully we have that in common. But yeah, those are the kind of sounds I'm digging. You know who I really dig? It's not a musician, but it's a person I've been following for years. Is that young Dutch kid, Boyan Slat, which is a great name. Slat. He's the little young guy. Sorry, it's a patronising arsehole. Young man who started the Ocean Cleanup Project, which is like a huge catchment system they're deploying in the Pacific Ocean right now. And he came up with that idea when he was 16. And he's like 22 or something now. Yeah, them kind of humans. That's punk rock, you know. That's punk rock. What did Strummer say? Exemplary manners to your fellow human being. 21st century version, exemplary manners to your fellow human being and the fucking planet you walk on. Be nice. Don't trash the place. So yeah, Boyan Slat is the ultimate hardcore punk rocker. If I had my pineapple here, I would say, bring me the pineapple, please. plant this. Climate change means we can probably grow this real soon here in Deptford. Plant your pineapples, be nice to people, don't hurt nobody, be musical, dance even if you can't, and listen to our music, please, and listen to the Blinders, and listen to Bug Eye, and listen to Nova Twins and all them cats, you know.